the top 10 prospects in Major League Baseball, again, which you can find on the top 100 list here on justbaseball.com. Aram Layton is here to break it down. And at number 10, Max Clark of the Detroit Tigers. What makes Max Clark a top 10 prospect in baseball?
I think he did just about everything you wanted to see from him last year, right? I mean, he starts to tap into more power. I think it was kind of a secret. I feel like it didn't get enough press. He was popping exit velocities north of 110 miles per hour. The other side is the contact rates got better. His path improved where he started to produce a lot more against breaking balls. And I know that was something that he specifically trained. It was a chase rate south of 20%. The defense continues to come along in center field. Like, it was everything that you wanted to see from Max Clark. And by the way, doing a lot of those things after a promotion up to Double-A as well. So when I look at him in totality, I think the way to push the ceiling up was tapping into more power. And he did that, whether it's a little bit more in the air pull department with the 14 homers and 5 triples, but also the EVs, where you've got a 90th percentile of 104.5. And again, to make that improvement power wise while also improving drastically against breaking balls, I think is really encouraging.
Next up at number 9, JJ Weatherholt of the St. Louis Cardinals. And I remember on draft day, you, myself, Jack, the whole room here at Just Baseball was pounding the table. Draft Weatherholt number 1. We were big fans of Bazana, and you are too. And you'll find that on this top 100 prospects list. It's just JJ Weatherholt had a hamstring injury, and I feel like that's what led him to drop, because it wasn't his performance on the field. And now we're seeing, when healthy, a top 9 prospect in baseball.
I mean, the floor is so high. I don't think the ceiling maybe is as high as some of the other guys that we're going to talk about here. But the floor, man, I mean, it's elite swing decisions. It's a phenomenal field to spray the ball to all fields now. Cause that was the thing that was interesting is, at points he was not, pulling the ball in the air at the clip that you wanted to see. Got back to that this year. And you really saw that in the back half of the year. Is he going to stick and play a great shortstop? That's the other question. I think he can get by there, but I also think he's a guy that can go play third or second base at a fine level as well. But I think it's all about the bat here, where you have a guy that's performed well left on left. He walked as much as he struck out this year. He's flashing above average power. He just hits the ball hard consistently, and he's really hard to strike out. He's a sum of his parts type of player that I think you can really count on to give you a really exciting blend of on base and above average pop, with it being really hard to find a deficiency in his game.
And next up, Samuel Basallo of the Baltimore Orioles. And it's pretty obvious why he's a top prospect. We saw it with the bat early, and the Orioles were so convinced that they gave him a long-term extension. So this was probably one of the easier guys to put in the top 10, because, he's going to hit for a very long time, and the Orioles, a smart organization, already paid the man.
I don't know, man. He finished the year 0 for 13 with 8 strikeouts, so it might be over.
That's why he's 8 and not 5.
Yeah, it might be over. No, he is, and I don't love comps, but when they're uncanny, I'm going to throw a couple out in the top 10 here. Actually, I have to, I can't escape them. It really is that Rafael Devers starter kit offensively, and if he's doing that, even if it's 80% of that, and he's a passable catcher that also plays first base, that's just so valuable, right? So I think we've seen the defense come along where I think he can catch a couple times a week. I think he's looking like a guy that could be athletic enough to play first base. He ended up catching way more because of the Adler injury. But I think ultimately, you probably have him catch a few times per week. And then the power is ridiculous. The ability to hit balls. He's already one of the better bad ball hitters, in the major leagues. It's a hard hit rate north of 53%. It's elite exit velocities, and he can elevate easily to all fields. He is a monster offensively.
Next up, Leo DeVries of the No City Designation Athletics, the player acquired at the deadline for Mason Miller. Preller sent his best prospect over. And at the time, we debated it on this show, because I thought, if you can turn Mason Miller into a starter, this will all be worth it. And all indicators are telling us that's the eventual Padres plan. Now, who knows? Maybe they move off that, but that's what it seemed like, to get a young, controllable starter like that with unbelievable stuff. That's the reason you have to part with one of the best prospects in baseball.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's a world where it ages well for both sides. I think what made it sting a little bit more is that An 18-year-old in DeVries was then promptly, like after the trade, promoted to Double A after about a week or two, and proceeded to, if you include the postseason games where he went nuts as well, in 26 Double A games prior to his 19th birthday, hit 306 with a 995 OPS. That's not going to help in the short term when you're trying to, wrap your mind around that trade. What's amazing to me with DeVries is, maybe nothing jumps off the page data wise just yet because he's a kid, but 8 homers in 26 games in that span because he already is so adept to pulling the ball in the air. It was a 33% ground ball rate in that span. When he's in his advantage counts, he makes sure to get that barrel out there and just crush balls out in front of the plate. Like, he has this feel to be able to tap into more power than maybe the raw EVs will suggest. And I'll bet on a kid that just turned 19 tapping into more power as he matures. But to launch 18 home runs with roughly average exit velocities this year, and to do it at the highest level there, where 8 of them, came down the stretch, he is such a special talent as a switch hitter who has now really found a way to even out the sides. He's better from the left side, but the right side has closed the gap a little bit. I have some questions about the defense in terms of, like, can he be a little bit more consistent? But the tools are there. I think he can be a solid, above average shortstop if it all comes together. But when you look at a switch hitter with plus power potential that's getting on base at a good clip and not striking out and reaching Double A and having success in Double A at 19 years old, that's a special player there potentially.
That is a special player. Moving down the list at number 6, Trey Savage of the Toronto Blue Jays. Now, in the earlier segment, you kind of already gave us the elevator pitch on why it's hard to balance regular season and, of course, postseason success while ranking prospects for the future. My question that I'm very curious about, because Trey Savage is basically a 3-pitch guy. And even when he's at his best, he can dominate with just 2 pitches. Do you think Trey Savage could get better by adding more pitches to the repertoire? Or do you think there's more room to grow with the 3 pitches that he currently has, and that's how he continues to elevate his status?
It's a great question. I think you can always benefit from adding another offering, but you also don't want to take away from a trio that clearly is just so unique.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes it so tough for hitters is, even though everything really works north-south, the slider has enough horizontal difference from the splitter at a 4 mile per hour different speed that it seems to create these 3 similar but different enough looks that puts you in this tunnel blender kind of that you have to deal with, where it's like, oh, they're all similar. I should be able to zero in a little bit, but when I zero in, they're all different enough to where I'm swinging over it, or I'm getting frozen at the knees, or whatever it may be. So I think the 3 pitches work off of each other really well, and I think a fourth would really just be more of a taste breaker, or like to change his looks, because I think Savage did a really good job of, especially in the postseason, being able to change his looks. I'm not going to show you all 3 early in the game. You're going to see more slider early on or more splitter early on, and then you'll see a little bit of the other later. I think that's what's really made him so difficult. And then I think we see the fastball just setting the tone the way that it does. I think the number one thing that's going to push him higher and higher is just consistency of execution, because I think that really was the difference between those great postseason starts and the so-so ones.
Next up, as we enter the top 5 here, and we got about a minute 30, so I'm sure your explanation on Colt Emerson for the Seattle Mariners will bleed into the next segment. But I love hearing you talk about Colt Emerson, because there's a certain twinkle in your eye when you talk about this guy, because you've been high on him for a very, very long time, continues to rise up your list, and now at number 5.
Yeah, so he made an adjustment that I loved, and we'll talk a little bit about it probably more on the back half here. But he switched from like a bigger leg kick that was pushing his weight forward to a toe tap that allowed him to manage his weight better and interact with the ground better and keep his weight back. And from that point forward, he was one of the best hitters in the minor leagues. And doing that at 19 years old at the Double A and Triple A level. Also, the defense is just taking a leap as well at the shortstop position. But when you make that leap where you cut your ground ball rate by almost 20% after making the change, the EVs are there, you're succeeding as a 19-year-old in Double A and Triple A, it's just easy to buy into what he can be. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that on the other side.
Yeah, but we still have about 30 seconds here.
Okay.
Is there a chance that he debuts next year with the Seattle Mariners?
I think he debuts next year. I'm just curious where. You have JP Crawford,
Yeah.
and he's under contract, I think, for another year. You don't want to disrupt things too much, but maybe Emerson can plug in at third where he'd be a phenomenal defender. Maybe you could mix him in at second, but I know you have Cole Young. That's why I'm really fascinated to see what they do. You obviously start the year with him at AAA, but he was really good in his handful of games there. So if he continues to do that, I think it's going to become a difficult decision about, do you prioritize the future with Emerson?
Next up, top 5. All right, continuing down, you mentioned that big leg kick that Colt Emerson had to really vault himself into one of the better hitters in the minor leagues as well, if you could build off that.
Yeah, so it honestly was the ditching it that made him better, where he was able to control that weight more
Mm.
with the toe tap. And I put out a piece on justbaseball.com about a couple months ago on that, and it was amazing to just see how the batted ball data completely changed from that point forward. Where I think it allowed him to deliver the barrel at the proper angle. When your weight's not pushing forward, you're not going to have the barrel entering the zone kind of more downhill and steep, so you're able to work behind the baseball and elevate it more. And when you look at his first, I believe it was like 80 games of the season, Emerson was putting the ball on the ground at a 51% clip. The rest of the way, it was a 39% clip. Cut the strikeout rate down, was slugging more. You have that left-handed swing with still more room for power, with a good feel to hit, with a good approach. I just feel so confident that Emerson's going to be an everyday shortstop at the highest level, but he has the potential to be a really good one at that.
Moving on to number 4, Jesus Mate of the Milwaukee Brewers, the youngest player in the top 10 at just 18 years old. If I could summarize him in one word, wouldn't it just be freak?
Freak. He is the quickest hands I've seen from a prospect in a long time. Like where there's pitches running in onto inside, like up against his body, and he somehow just whips the barrel out. It looks like he's swinging a wiffle ball bat sometimes,
Mm.
and you see it from both sides of the plate, which is the craziest part. I don't know if I can I don't think I can fact check this, but I don't think there's another hitter. Like I know he did this. I don't think there's another hitter in the minor leagues who posted 110-mile-per-hour exit velocity from both sides of the plate. But that's what Jesus Mate did. And mind you, he did that at 18 years old. He was 17 years old at the start of the season. To be able to already 6'1", 200 pounds, switch hitting 18-year-old be posting exit velocities north of 110 from both sides of the plate is bonkers. And what's crazy, the other part of it is he's still tapping into his potential here. I think there's more power just as he optimizes his angles a little bit more. It's kind of a noisy operation that he gets away with because his hands are ridiculous. But as he cleans up the mechanics a little bit, I think you'll start to see him elevate the ball a bit more. The other part that's nuts to me is in a season where he was 17 years old to start, he finished the year in Double-A and had some Double-A success. His last game of the year was a Double-A postseason game where he went deep. Like he's going to be 18 years old still at the start of the season. We'll be getting a second taste of Double-A in 2026. I don't know if he sticks it short. And if he moves over to second base, I think he's going to be one of the more dynamic, exciting second basemen in the game if it all works together. And that's why when I look at Jesus Mate, again, this is one of the other few comps I'll throw out today. I can't escape the Ketel Marte comp with him because they look so similar in the way that they operate, their frame-defying juice, and just how special they are from both sides of the plate.
And moving on to number 3, Nolan McLean, of course, of the New York Mets. And we've already talked about him a lot. I'm more interested in the gap between him, Trey Savage at number 6, and if you go read the list on justbaseball.com, you'll see Bubba Chandler of the Pittsburgh Pirates at number 11, just missed that top 10. Do you think they're all in a similar bucket? Because, people hang on the number on the rankings a lot where they say, oh, this guy's 42 when he should be 47 or something like that,
Yeah.
where they all could be in the same bucket. Like, do you view them all as 1A, 1B, 1C? Or is Nolan McLean 1A and then Savage is 2 and Bubba is 3? Or how do you gauge that?
I think Bubba and Savage are very, very close where like it wouldn't surprise me at all if Bubba's better than Savage next season, to be honest.
Yeah.
But you're just kind of taking in stride what we saw. And that's where you balance a little bit of the edge of just having, the performance at the highest level. But again, Bubba had a really good 3 starts to finish out the year. Nolan McLean is one where, and again, maybe I'm getting a little like overly bullish. I just think he's so unique that he separates himself a little bit from them. I don't think it's a full like 1 and then 2. I think he's 1A and then the other 2 are kind of, 1B and 1C. But I do think McClain has a little bit more of a gap, obviously, than Bubba and Savage do between each other, just because of the different ways that he can get you out. I mean, the big league level, he had a 60% ground ball rate, and he can also strike you out at about a 30% clip with the way he was throwing the ball as well, too. It's this low release where he's got the four-seamer that plays at the top and then the sinker that runs off of it that is just a ground ball machine. 80% ground ball rate on the sinker in the big leagues. And nobody hit that at any level this year is what really stands out to me as well. So you have that fastball setting the tone, and it's two different fastballs. Then you have this wicked feel to spin ridiculous breaking balls, both a curveball that is too plain and a sweeper. Then you've got this cutter, this splitter as well. I just don't know how you game plan for a pitcher like Nolan McClain, who's only getting better. And even if you game plan and feel like you're on him, you're still probably going to roll over and hit it into the ground. So I just think there's so many ways for him to succeed that I think he's built for, the highest ceiling of all of them.
And we have about 2 minutes and 20 seconds left. And I want to spend this talking about number 2. And then number 1 will bleed into the next segment as we talk about Josh Naylor signing with the Seattle Mariners. Kevin McGonigal of the Detroit Tigers. In a previous Just Baseball episode, we were talking about Tigers mock trades. And you said, maybe I would send Max Clark if I was able to bring in Ketel Marte. But Kevin McGonigal is untradeable. Why is Kevin McGonigal untradeable?
He's one of the most productive hitters we've seen in the minor leagues in several years, and not even just productive. I would say well-rounded and consistent. This was a stat that I got from our guy Peyton. I just put out on Twitter. But since 2006, because I asked him, I'm like, I don't remember the last time I've seen somebody like do what McGonigal has done. Like, let's try to pull this. Since 2006, only 3 minor leaguers have posted an OPS of at least 850 with 25 homers and a BB to K ratio, strikeout to walk rate of at least 1.2. Kevin McGonigal, age 18 to 20, with a 163 WRC plus. Wander Franco is one of the more prolific minor leaguers we've seen, obviously, and like consensus number 1 prospect for multiple years. Age 17 to age 21 had a 155 WRC plus, and then Mookie Betts, age 18 to 22, had a 151 WRC plus. So McGonigal had the best numbers of all of them, same age range mostly, and if he's going to spend more time in the minor leagues, he's going to continue to push that up, and that's not including his Barry Bonds numbers in the AFL. The blend of hit and power is crazy. And I think people always slept on the power that McGonigal has, where now he's flashing the potential for plus power. If he's doing that with the best bat to ball skills, I think you got really in the minor leagues, or at least just the best pure hitting ability in the minor leagues. The fact that he now looks like he can stick at shortstop. And even if you move him off a shortstop, he's going to play a solid third. They were giving him reps there in the AFL. He has one of the highest launch angles on batted balls 95 plus, which I love. His average launch angle on batted balls 95 plus is 21 degrees this past year, which means anytime he's hitting the ball hard and hitting it the hardest, it's going at optimal angles where he's going to outslug.
The number 1 prospect in baseball, and that is Connor Griffin of the Pittsburgh Pirates. The floor is yours, because I could ask a ton of questions about why this guy is so incredible, but I'll let you take it away.
You know how sad it made me to not have Connor Griffin or not have Kevin McGonigal at number 1, given how high we've been on him for so long. But I always just boiled it down to this. Like, we put out the top 100 midseason update at the end of July. Connor Griffin was number 2. From August 1st onward, Connor Griffin at 19 years old, at AA mostly, hit 351 with a 988 OPS, stole 1 trillion bags, hit 8 homers, and was playing plus defense at shortstop while also mixing in center field where he looks like he could be a good defender. It's just crazy stuff. I was talking to our guys at Bucko Banner, who host the Pirates podcast on our network, and I was like, what do you think the positional split's going to be for him? And he said that Connor had mentioned on the show to them that the Pirates would have him play center field. Like, they kind of said, you'll play center field when you're slumping, like, just so we can, just change it up for you and refresh things. Well, he never slumped. So then they just kind of threw him out into center field just once or twice a week. But you're talking about plus power, and I think he's still tapping into more, even though he hit 21 home runs this year, plus speed, the ability to play a good center field, cutting down on the strikeout rate as the season progressed. As an 18-year-old, 19-year-old with those tools to strike out from June onward, like sub 20% with an OPS nearly of 1,000. And there's still more power to tap into there. He is that tool set and production at an age that you don't expect it already, that is reminiscent of some of the best prospects we've seen, of the Bobby Witts and guys like that. And that's why you can't deny him as, the number one prospect, as a true 5-tool potential star.
And that'll do it for the top 10 prospects and our overview of the entire top 100 prospects, again, which you can find on justbaseball.com. And for any prospect heads who want even more, Aram will be answering questions in our Discord. You can find the link to join in our episode description. It's less than a price of a sandwich